What happens when a joke meant to embarrass your husband at a family dinner ends with a lawyer knocking on your door? The moment those words left my mouth at Romano's bistro, I thought I was being clever. I thought I was finally showing everyone who really ran the Marwood household. I was wrong. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. The restaurant buzzed with the usual Friday night energy as our extended family gathered around the large corner table. Harry sat beside me, methodically cutting his chicken parmesan, while I regaled everyone with stories from my week as a customer service supervisor. I love these moments, being the center of attention, making people laugh, feeling important. So then this customer demanded to speak to my manager, I said, gesturing dramatically with my wine glass. And I told him, "Sir, I am the manager. You should have seen his face." Everyone chuckled appropriately. Everyone except Harry, who just nodded politely and took another bite of his food. God, he was boring. 2 years of marriage and he still ate like he was filling out a tax form. Precise, methodical, joyless. "That's wonderful, dear," said Janice, Harry's mother, though her smile seemed forced. She'd never really warmed to me, probably because I wasn't some meek accountant's wife who baked cookies and organized charity drives. My own mother, Lily, leaned forward eagerly. Ianthi's always been so assertive. Even as a child, she knew how to get what she wanted. "Speaking of getting what you want," Owen, Harry's older brother, said with a grin, "how's the new house treating you guys? That mortgage payment must be killer." I felt Harry tense beside me. We'd stretched our budget for the house in Maple Ridge. I'd insisted on it because I wasn't going to live in some cramped starter home like a college student. Harry had worried about the payments, but I'd convinced him we could manage. "Oh, we're doing fine," I said airily. "Harry's good with numbers, aren't you, honey?" Harry looked up from his plate. "We're managing," he said quietly. "Managing?" I laughed, the wine making me bolder. "Come on, don't be so modest. You're like our personal ATM machine, always reliable, always dispensing cash when needed." A few people chuckled uncertainly. Harry's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Actually," I continued, warming to my theme, "sometimes I joke that Harry's only good for paying bills. But hey, at least he's good at something, right?" The laughter was more strained now. Janice's face had gone completely cold. Owen shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Even Lily looked a bit taken aback. But I was on a roll. "I mean, it's not like he's going to sweep me off my feet with grand romantic gestures or passionate speeches. But when the mortgage is due, Harry's your man." "Ianthi," Harry said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. "What? I'm just joking around. Everyone knows I'm kidding." I looked around the table, suddenly aware that no one was laughing anymore. "Come on, you all know Harry. He's not exactly Mr. Excitement." Harry carefully placed his fork on his plate and looked at me. For just a moment, I saw something in his eyes that made my stomach clench. Not anger, but something deeper. Disappointment? Hurt? Then it was gone, replaced by that familiar blank expression. "You're right," he said calmly. "I should probably stick to what I do best." He stood up, pulling out his wallet. "Dinner's on me, everyone. I need to head home early. Got some bills to pay." The silence was deafening. Harry kissed the top of Sophie's head. Our 7-year-old daughter had been coloring quietly at the end of the table, but I could see she'd been listening. "Daddy," she said in a small voice, "I'll see you at home, sweetheart. Be good for Mommy." He walked away without looking back. I watched him go, feeling a strange mix of triumph and unease. I'd shown everyone who was really in charge, hadn't I? "Well," I said, forcing a laugh, "someone's being dramatic." Janice stood abruptly. "I think I'll head home too. Owen, can you give me a ride?" "Of course, Mom." Within minutes, our family dinner had dissolved. Only Lily remained, looking at me with concern. "Honey, that was a bit harsh, don't you think?" "It was just a joke, Mom. Harry's too sensitive. He needs to learn to take a little teasing." But as I gathered my purse and Sophie's coloring books, I noticed something on the table where Harry had been sitting. His phone, face down, forgotten in his hasty departure. As I reached for it, the screen lit up with a notification. A text message from a number I didn't recognize. Package delivered as requested. Documentation complete. We'll call Monday to discuss next steps. I stared at the message, feeling a chill run down my spine. What package? What documentation? Harry never mentioned expecting anything. I slipped the phone into my purse, telling myself it was probably just work-related. Harry was always getting boring accounting stuff delivered to the house. But as Sophie and I walked to the car, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted tonight, something important. I just didn't realize yet that Harry had been planning for this moment far longer than I'd been making jokes. Monday morning arrived grey and drizzling, matching my mood as I sat in the break room at Pinnacle Customer Solutions, stirring my coffee and replaying Friday night's dinner. Harry had been polite but distant all weekend, speaking to me only when necessary, and spending most of his time with Sophie or buried in paperwork. I'd tried to bring up the phone incident casually Sunday morning. "You left this at the restaurant," I'd said, handing it back to him. "Thanks," he'd replied, immediately changing the password before slipping it into his pocket. When I asked about the mysterious text, he'd just shrugged. "Work stuff." Now, sitting across from my best friend Evelyn in the cramped break room, I found myself venting my frustrations. "He's being such a baby about it," I complained. "It was obviously a joke. Everyone knew I was kidding around." Evelyn, a sharp-featured woman with perfectly styled blonde hair, nodded sympathetically. "Men are so fragile. They can dish it out, but can't take it when we give it back." "Exactly. And it's not like I said anything that wasn't true. Harry is boring. He is only interested in numbers and spreadsheets and making sure all the bills are paid on time. Where's the passion? Where's the excitement? You deserve better, Ianthe. You're young, you're beautiful, you're successful. Why should you settle for some accountant who treats you like a roommate?" I sipped my coffee, feeling validated. Evelyn always understood me, unlike Harry, who seemed to analyze every word I said like he was reviewing a tax return. "Speaking of excitement," Evelyn said with a sly smile, "how are things going with your personal trainer?" I felt my cheeks warm. "Cole's not my personal trainer. He just works at my gym." "Uh-huh. And that's why you've been going to Fit Zone 5 times a week instead of your usual twice." I couldn't help but smile. Cole Hartley was everything Harry wasn't. Spontaneous, charming, physically impressive. At 32, he had the kind of lean, muscled build that came from years of dedicated fitness. And when he smiled at me during our accidental encounters at the gym, I felt like a teenager again. "We just talk," I said, though even I could hear how unconvincing that sounded. "Right, just talking. That's why you bought all those new workout outfits and started wearing makeup to the gym." "There's nothing wrong with wanting to look good when I exercise." "Of course not. And there's nothing wrong with a little harmless flirtation either. God knows Harry doesn't appreciate what he has." Evelyn was right, as usual. What harm was there in enjoying Cole's attention? It wasn't like I was doing anything wrong. We were just friends. Friends who happened to have incredible chemistry and who texted each other constantly throughout the day. My phone buzzed with a message from Cole. "Hey, beautiful. Free for a quick workout after work? I could use some company." I felt that familiar flutter of excitement. "Maybe," I typed back. "Depends on how my day goes." "I'll make it worth your while." I quickly deleted the message thread and slipped my phone back into my purse. Evelyn was watching me with knowing eyes. "Just be careful," she said, "and remember, you're not doing anything wrong. You're just living your life." The rest of the workday dragged by in a blur of customer complaints and administrative tasks. As 5 o'clock approached, I found myself checking my appearance in my compact mirror, touching up my lipstick and fluffing my hair. I texted Harry, "Working late tonight. Don't wait up for dinner." His response came back immediately. "Okay, we'll pick up Sophie from aftercare." No questions, no complaints, just acceptance. Part of me was relieved, but another part was almost insulted. Didn't he care where I was or what I was doing? FitZone was busy with the after-work crowd when I arrived. I changed into my newest workout outfit, a form-fitting set in deep purple that Evelyn had helped me pick out, and made my way to the weight area. Cole was waiting by the squat rack, and his face lit up when he saw me. "There's my favorite client," he said, though I wasn't technically his client. "I'm not your client," I reminded him, but I was smiling. "Details." He moved closer, ostensibly to adjust the weight plates, but I could smell his cologne and feel the warmth radiating from his body. "You look amazing, as always." We went through the motions of a workout, but the real exercise was the constant flirtation. Cole's hands lingered when he spotted me during bench presses. He stood unnecessarily close when demonstrating proper form. Every interaction was charged with an electricity that I never felt with Harry. "Want to grab a smoothie?" he asked as we finished up. "There's that new place down the street." I hesitated. Grabbing a smoothie felt like crossing a line somehow. But then I thought about Harry at home, probably helping Sophie with homework while reviewing client files, and the hesitation faded. Sure, I could use some protein after that workout. The smoothie bar was dimly lit and intimate, more like a cocktail lounge than a health food joint. We found a corner booth, and Cole slid in beside me instead of across from me. "So, tell me about your husband," he said, his thigh pressing against mine. "What about him? What's he like? You never really talk about him." I took a sip of my mango protein smoothie, considering. "Harry's practical, reliable, safe." Safe sounds boring. It is boring. He's the kind of guy who plans our vacation budget 6 months in advance and reads the fine print on everything. He probably has our retirement mapped out to the penny. Cole laughed. "And what about what you want? What makes you happy?" His hand found mine on the table, and I didn't pull away. "I want to feel alive," I said. "I want excitement and passion and spontaneity. I want to feel like I'm more than just someone's wife and someone's mother." "You are more than that. You're incredible, Ianthe. Any man would be lucky to have you." The way he said my name sent shivers down my spine. When was the last time Harry had told me I was incredible? We talked for another hour, our conversation growing more intimate with each passing minute. Cole told me about his dreams of opening his own gym, his failed engagement to a woman who didn't understand his ambitions. I found myself sharing things I'd never told Harry, my frustrations with my job, my fears about getting older, my feeling that life was passing me by. "You deserve someone who sees how special you are," Cole said, his thumb tracing circles on my palm. By the time we left the smoothie bar, it was nearly 9 o'clock. Cole walked me to my car, and for a moment I thought he might kiss me. Instead, he squeezed my hand and said, "Same time tomorrow?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. The drive home was a blur of guilt and excitement. I was playing with fire, I knew that. But God, it felt good to be desired again. To be seen as something more than a bill-paying machine or a household manager. Harry was in the living room when I got home, laptop open on the coffee table, surrounded by papers. He looked up when I entered. "How was work?" he asked. "Fine, busy. You know how it is." He nodded and returned to his screen. I noticed he was working on spreadsheets, probably tracking our expenses again. Always so responsible, so careful with money. "I'm going to shower," I announced. "Okay, Sophie's already asleep. I helped her with her math homework." Of course he did. Reliable Harry, taking care of everything as usual. In the shower, I let the hot water wash away the lingering scent of Cole's cologne, but I couldn't wash away the memory of his touch or the way he'd looked at me like I was the most fascinating woman in the world. I was toweling off when my phone buzzed with a text from Cole. "Can't stop thinking about tonight. You're amazing." I typed back quickly, "Me too. See you tomorrow." Then I deleted the message thread again, just to be safe. As I slipped into bed beside Harry, who was already asleep, I told myself I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was just enjoying some attention from an attractive man. It was harmless, but deep down, I knew I was lying to myself, and I was starting not to care. The next few weeks fell into a dangerous rhythm. Days blended together in a haze of stolen moments and secret messages. I'd meet Cole at the gym, we'd grab smoothies or coffee, and I'd come home to Harry's polite questions and Sophie's homework struggles. Harry never seemed suspicious, which was almost insulting. Did he really trust me that completely, or did he simply not care enough to wonder where I was spending all my time? It was a Thursday evening in late October when things finally came to a head. I'd texted Harry that I was working late again, the fourth time that week, and arrived home to find him in the kitchen, making Sophie's lunch for the next day. "Daddy, why doesn't Mommy eat dinner with us anymore?" Sophie was asking as I walked in. Harry's hand stilled on the peanut butter sandwich he was making. "Mummy's been very busy with work, sweetheart. But she used to eat with us every night." I felt a stab of guilt, but pushed it aside. "Hey, baby," I said, dropping my purse on the counter and kissing Sophie's forehead. "Sorry I'm so late. This new project at work is keeping me really busy." Sophie hugged me tightly. "I missed you, Mummy." "I missed you too, sweetheart. Why don't you go brush your teeth? I'll come read you a story in a few minutes." After Sophie bounded upstairs, Harry and I were alone in the kitchen. He continued making her lunch, his movements precise and methodical. "Rough day?" he asked without looking up. "You could say that. Johnson's been breathing down our necks about the quarterly reports, and we're short-staffed in customer service." It was a lie, but it rolled off my tongue easily. The truth was, I'd spent 2 hours at a coffee shop with Cole, talking about everything and nothing while he played with my fingers across the small table. "Maybe you should ask for some help, or delegate more." "It's not that simple, Harry. You wouldn't understand." He looked up at that, his grey eyes studying my face. "Try me." There was something in his tone that made me defensive. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. I just thought maybe you could explain what's keeping you at the office until 9 o'clock 4 nights a week." "I told you. The quarterly reports." "Right, the reports." He sealed Sophie's sandwich in a plastic bag and placed it in her lunchbox. "Funny thing, though. I called your office Tuesday night around 7 to see if you wanted me to bring you dinner. Jennifer said you'd left at 5:30. My heart stopped. Jennifer was the night security guard. She would have seen me leave. Think fast, Ianthe. I went back after dinner to finish up some things. Jennifer must have missed me coming back in. Harry nodded slowly. Must have. But there was something in his voice, a skepticism that hadn't been there before. I felt exposed, like he could see right through me. "Why are you questioning me like this?" I snapped. "I work hard to help support this family. The least you could do is appreciate it instead of interrogating me." "I'm not interrogating you. I'm just concerned. You seem different lately." "Different how?" He was quiet for a long moment, choosing his words carefully. "Distant, distracted, like your mind is somewhere else." "My mind is on work, and on our family, and on trying to keep everything together while you sit here making sandwiches and balancing checkbooks." The words came out harsher than I'd intended, but I was feeling cornered. Attack was the best defense. Harry flinched like I'd slapped him. "I see. Do you? Because sometimes I feel like I'm the only one in this marriage who's actually living. You're so content with your little routine. Work, home, bills, sleep, repeat. Where's the passion, Harry? Where's the excitement? I thought we were happy. You were happy. You were perfectly content with your boring, predictable life. But what about what I want? What about what I need?" Harry closed Sophie's lunchbox and turned to face me fully. "What do you need, Ianthe?" The question hung in the air between us. For a moment, I almost told him the truth. Almost said that I needed to feel desired and exciting and alive. Almost admitted that I'd been seeing Cole, and that for the first time in years, I felt like myself again. Instead, I deflected. I need you to trust me. I need you to stop questioning every move I make. I need you to understand that I'm working hard for our family's future." "Okay," he said quietly. "I trust you." But something had changed in his eyes. The warmth that used to be there when he looked at me was gone, replaced by something cooler and more guarded. "I'm going to read to Sophie," I said. "She's probably already asleep. It's past 9:30. Guilt washed over me again. I'd missed another bedtime, another chance to connect with my daughter, but Cole had been telling me about his ex-fiancée, and the conversation had been so intense, so intimate. "Then I'm going to take a bath and go to bed." "Ianthe." Harry's voice stopped me at the kitchen doorway. "I love you. You know that, right?" I turned back to look at him. He was standing by the sink, his shoulders slightly slumped, and for just a moment he looked older than his 36 years. "I know," I said. "I love you too." But the words felt hollow, like a script I was reading rather than something I actually felt. Upstairs, I peeked into Sophie's room. She was indeed asleep, her dark hair spread across her pillow, one arm clutching her favorite stuffed elephant. I stood in the doorway for a long moment, watching her peaceful face and feeling the weight of my choices. In our bedroom, I ran a hot bath and sank into the lavender-scented water. My phone buzzed with a text from Cole. "Thinking about you. Can't wait to see you tomorrow." I smiled despite myself and typed back, "Me too. Harry's getting suspicious, though." Maybe it's time to make a choice. I stared at that message for a long time. A choice. Was that what this was leading to? Was I really considering leaving Harry for Cole? The thought should have terrified me, but instead it sent a thrill of excitement through my chest. A new life. A passionate life. A life where I was cherished and desired instead of taken for granted. I deleted the message thread and sank deeper into the bath water. When I finally came to bed, Harry was already asleep, or pretending to be. He was turned away from me, and when I slipped under the covers, he didn't roll over to pull me close like he usually did. I lay awake for a long time, staring at the ceiling and thinking about choices, about the life I had versus the life I wanted, about the man sleeping beside me who loved me quietly and steadily, and the man who made me feel electric with just a smile. I was so lost in my thoughts that I almost missed it, the soft sound of Harry's phone buzzing on his nightstand. Once, then twice, then a third time. Who was texting my husband at midnight? I held my breath, waiting to see if he would check his messages, but Harry remained perfectly still. Either he was really asleep, or he was ignoring whoever was trying to reach him. The phone buzzed once more, then fell silent. I closed my eyes and tried to sleep, but questions swirled in my mind. Harry never got late-night messages. He barely got messages at all, except from work or his mother. So who was trying to reach him, and why wasn't he answering? For the first time since this whole thing with Cole began, I wondered if I might not be the only one in this marriage keeping secrets. November brought an early cold snap and a growing recklessness I couldn't seem to control. Cole and I had progressed from lingering touches to stolen kisses in the gym's empty yoga studio. Every rational part of my brain screamed that I was playing with fire, but the thrill was intoxicating. Harry had grown even more distant, if that was possible. He spoke to me only when necessary, spent most evenings in his home office, and had started sleeping on the living room couch, claiming his back was bothering him. Part of me was relieved. It made my deception easier. But another part was stung by how easily he seemed to be pulling away. "He doesn't fight for you," Cole said one afternoon as we sat in his car in the Fit Zone parking lot. We'd just finished what we laughingly called a workout, though most of it had been spent finding excuses to touch each other. If my wife was slipping away, I'd move heaven and earth to win her back. "You've never been married," I pointed out, but his words sent a warm flush through me. "No, but when I find the right woman, I'll know how to treat her." He leaned across the center console and kissed me, his hand tangling in my hair. This wasn't the polite, perfunctory kiss I got from Harry on the rare occasions when he kissed me at all. This was desperate and hungry and full of promise. When we broke apart, I was breathless. Cole, I know this is complicated, but I can't stop thinking about you, Ianthe, about us. There is no us. Not really. I'm married. I have a daughter. Are you happy? The question hung between us like a challenge. Was I happy? When was the last time Harry had looked at me the way Cole was looking at me right now? When was the last time my pulse had raced when I heard Harry's key in the door? It's not that simple, I said finally. It could be. Life doesn't have to be about paying bills and following schedules and doing what's expected. You could choose passion. You could choose to be happy. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a text from Harry. Can you pick up Sophie from school? I'm running late with a client. Reality crashed back over me like cold water. Sophie, my 7-year-old daughter who still believed her parents loved each other, who still crawled into bed with us on Saturday mornings and insisted we all make pancakes together. I have to go, I said, already reaching for the door handle. Ianthe, wait. Cole caught my hand. Think about what I said. You deserve to be happy. I nodded and slipped out of his car, my mind spinning. As I walked to my own car, I didn't notice the silver Honda parked across the street, or the small device mounted on its dashboard that had been recording everything. Sophie was waiting in the school pickup line when I arrived, her backpack slung over one shoulder and her hair escaping from its morning ponytail. She climbed into the back seat with a tired sigh. How was school, baby? Okay. Mrs. Peterson gave us a lot of math homework. Will Daddy help me with it? I'm sure he will. Harry was always patient with Sophie's homework, explaining concepts over and over until she understood. It was one of the things I'd always admired about him, back when I still admired things about him. Mummy, are you and Daddy getting divorced? The question hit me like a physical blow. I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw Sophie's serious brown eyes, Harry's eyes, watching me intently. Why would you ask that, sweetheart? Because Emma's parents got divorced, and she said first they stopped sleeping in the same room, and then they stopped eating dinner together, and then they stopped talking except when they were mad. My throat felt tight. Daddy and I aren't getting divorced, Sophie. We're just going through a stressful time right now. Because of your job? Because of a lot of things. But we love you very much, and that will never change. Sophie nodded, but she didn't look entirely convinced. The rest of the drive home passed in silence, and I found myself really looking at my daughter for the first time in weeks. When had she gotten so perceptive? When had she started watching our marriage with such careful eyes? Harry was already home when we arrived, his car in the driveway and the lights on in his office. Sophie ran inside, calling for him, and I heard his warm voice responding, asking about her day and offering to help with homework. I lingered in the kitchen, listening to their easy conversation and feeling like an outsider in my own home. When had I stopped being part of that inner circle? When had I become the parent Sophie had to ask about, rather than the one she ran to first? My phone buzzed with another message from Cole. Can't get you off my mind. When can I see you again? I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. Through the doorway, I could see Harry kneeling beside Sophie at the dining room table, patiently explaining long division. His dark hair was falling into his eyes, and he pushed it back with the same gesture I'd once found endearing. Soon, I typed back to Cole, I'll figure something out. But as I hit send, I caught Harry watching me from the dining room. Our eyes met for just a moment before he turned back to Sophie's homework, but something in his expression made my stomach clench. How long had he been watching me? And what had he seen in my face as I texted with Cole? That night, after Sophie was asleep, Harry emerged from his office carrying a manila folder. He set it on the kitchen counter and looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. We need to talk, he said. My heart started pounding. About what? About us. About where we go from here. I forced myself to stay calm. I don't know what you mean. Harry opened the folder and pulled out a stack of papers. Bank statements, I realized. Credit card bills. Phone records. I've been doing some thinking, he said quietly, about our finances, about our future. Okay. I wasn't sure where this was going, but the careful way he was speaking made me nervous. Did you know we're spending $300 more per month than we were 6 months ago? The cost of living goes up, Harry. That's normal. Not on gym memberships and coffee shops and restaurants I've never heard of. My mouth went dry. He'd been tracking my spending. Of course he had. Harry tracked everything. I've been working out more, and sometimes I grab coffee between meetings. It's not a big deal. No, it's not, but the pattern is interesting. He pulled out another paper, my phone bill, with certain numbers highlighted. This number, for instance, you've texted it 437 times in the past month. I felt the blood drain from my face. Cole's number. Who is it, Ianthe? The question was asked so quietly, so calmly, that it was somehow more terrifying than if he'd been shouting. It's my trainer. From the gym. Your trainer. Yes. We discuss workout schedules and nutrition plans. Harry nodded slowly. 437 text messages about workout schedules. Harry, you're being paranoid. Am I? He pulled out one more paper, and my heart stopped completely. It was a photo, grainy but unmistakable. Cole and me in his car, kissing in the Fit Zone parking lot. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came out. I hired a private investigator 3 weeks ago, Harry said, his voice still eerily calm. I hoped I was wrong. I hoped there was some other explanation for why my wife had become a stranger. Harry, I can explain. Can you? Can you explain why you've been lying to me for months? Can you explain why you've been having an affair while I've been taking care of our daughter and our home and our finances? The word affair hung in the air like an accusation. Hearing it spoken aloud made it real in a way it hadn't been before. It's not what you think, I said desperately. It's not serious. It's just, I was lonely, and he made me feel special, and you decided that was worth destroying our family. Harry's composure finally cracked, just slightly. I could see the hurt in his eyes, the betrayal, the disappointment. I never meant for this to happen, I whispered. But it did happen, and now we have to figure out what comes next. He gathered up all the papers and put them back in the folder. I'm going to stay at my mother's tonight. I need some time to think. Harry, please. We can work this out. We can go to counseling. I'll stop seeing him, I promise. He paused at the kitchen doorway and looked back at me. Will you? Because 3 hours ago you were in his car, and 20 minutes ago you were texting him while I helped our daughter with her homework. I had no answer for that. I'll pick up Sophie for school tomorrow, he said. We'll need to figure out how to tell her that Mommy and Daddy need some time apart. And then he was gone, leaving me alone in the kitchen with the weight of my choices and the sound of my marriage crumbling around me. The next morning dawned grey and bitter, matching the hollow feeling in my chest. I'd barely slept, alternating between panic and desperate attempts to figure out how to fix this mess. Harry had indeed picked up Sophie for school, leaving me a brief note saying they'd gone for breakfast first and he'd call later to discuss logistics. I called in sick to work and spent the morning pacing the house, my phone clutched in my hand. I'd sent Harry 6 texts and called twice, but he wasn't responding. Finally, in desperation, I called his office. Marwood and Associates, came the receptionist's cheerful voice. Hi, this is Ianthe Marwood. Is my husband available? A pause. I'm sorry, Mrs. Marwood, but Harry isn't in today. He called in this morning and said he'd be working from home for the rest of the week. Working from home. At his mother's house, apparently. I hung up and immediately dialed Janice's number. It went straight to voicemail. By noon, I was desperate enough to call Evelyn. She answered on the second ring, but her voice was cooler than usual. Ianthe, how are you? Terrible. Harry found out about Cole. He hired a private investigator, Ev. He has pictures. Silence on the other end of the line. Evelyn? I'm here. I'm just processing. I need your help. I need to figure out how to fix this. How to fix it? Ianthe, you've been having an affair. What did you think was going to happen? Her tone caught me off guard. Where was the supportive friend who'd been encouraging me to live my life just weeks ago? You told me I deserved to be happy, I said. You said there was nothing wrong with a little harmless flirtation. Flirtation, yes, but this went way beyond that, didn't it? You've been lying to Harry for months. You've been sneaking around, neglecting Sophie. I never neglected Sophie. When's the last time you helped her with homework? When's the last time you put her to bed? Face it, Ianthe, you've been so caught up in your affair that you forgot you had a family. I ended the call, feeling more alone than ever. Even my best friend was turning against me. My phone buzzed with a text from Cole. Hey, beautiful. Haven't heard from you today. Everything okay? For the first time since this whole thing started, his message didn't give me a thrill. Instead, it made me feel sick. This man, this virtual stranger, had become more important to me than my husband and daughter. How had I let that happen? Harry found out, I typed back. We need to stop seeing each other. His response came immediately. What? How did he find out? Private investigator. He has photos of us together. Shit. This is bad, Ianthe. What if he tells my boss? I could lose my job. I stared at his message in disbelief. His first concern wasn't about me, or my marriage, or my daughter. It was about his job. I don't know, I replied. I have bigger problems right now. Look, maybe we should cool things off for a while. Let the heat die down. Cool things off? Cole, my marriage is falling apart. And I'm sorry about that, but I can't get involved in some messy divorce situation. I have my own life to think about. The phone slipped from my numb fingers. This was the man I'd been ready to leave Harry for. This selfish, shallow person who abandoned me the moment things got complicated. I spent the rest of the day in a haze, alternating between tears and rage. How had everything gone so wrong so quickly? 3 days ago, I'd felt alive and desired and powerful. Now I felt like my entire world was crumbling. Harry finally called around 6 o'clock. How's Sophie? I asked immediately. She's fine. She's having dinner with Mom right now. When are you coming home? I'm not. Not yet. I need more time to think. Harry, please, we need to talk about this. We need to figure out how to move forward. I agree. That's why I've made an appointment with a lawyer for tomorrow morning. My blood turned to ice. A lawyer? Harry, you can't be serious. I'm very serious. I've spent the last 24 hours thinking about our marriage, about what you said at that restaurant, about the months of lies and deception. I think it's time we both admitted this isn't working. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can work on our problems. What problems, Ianthe? According to you, I'm boring and predictable, and only good for paying bills. According to you, I lack passion and excitement. According to you, I'm everything that's wrong with your life. I didn't mean those things. I was just frustrated. Were you? Because your actions suggest otherwise. You've been looking for passion and excitement with another man for months. You've been building a relationship with someone else while I've been home taking care of our daughter and our responsibilities. I could hear the pain in his voice underneath the calm exterior, and it made my chest ache. I made a mistake, I whispered. A terrible mistake. But it's over now. Cole doesn't want to see me anymore anyway. He doesn't want to see you. He said he doesn't want to get involved in a messy divorce situation. Harry was quiet for a long moment. I see. So he was fine with being involved in a messy marriage situation, but a divorce is where he draws the line. Put like that, it sounded even more pathetic. Harry, I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But please don't throw away 8 years of marriage over this. Please don't break up our family. I'm not the one who broke up our family, Ianthe. That happened the first time you decided another man was more important than your husband and daughter. That's not fair, isn't it? When's the last time you had dinner with Sophie? When's the last time you asked about her day or helped her with a project or read her a bedtime story? When's the last time you and I had a conversation that wasn't about bills or schedules or household logistics? I opened my mouth to argue, but the words died in my throat. He was right, and we both knew it. I want to see Sophie, I said finally. Of course. We'll work out a schedule. But Ianthe, I think it's best if we start living separately while we figure out the legal details. You're really going to divorce me. I'm going to protect myself and our daughter. I'm going to make sure Sophie has stability and security, even if our marriage doesn't. After he hung up, I sat in the empty house and finally let myself cry. Not the angry, frustrated tears I'd been shedding all day, but deep, wrenching sobs that came from somewhere I'd been trying to ignore. I'd lost my husband. I'd lost my best friend's respect. I'd discovered that the man I thought I was falling for was nothing more than a selfish coward. And worst of all, I'd hurt my innocent daughter in ways I was only beginning to understand. For the first time since this whole nightmare began, I started to wonder if Harry had been right all along. Maybe boring and predictable wasn't so bad. Maybe stability and reliability were worth more than passion and excitement. But it was too late for those realizations now. The damage was done, and I was about to learn just how thoroughly Harry's quiet, methodical nature had prepared him for this moment. 3 days later, I finally understood the difference between Harry being passive and Harry being weak. While I was busy with my affair and expensive distractions, he'd quietly frozen our joint accounts, opened his own, paid the mortgage, hired a lawyer, and prepared separation and custody papers like a chess master setting up checkmate. My own mother refused to defend me in court, saying Harry was the only stable parent Sophie had, and even agreed to help him with childcare. When I went to Janice's house and saw Harry calmly helping Sophie with her homework, I realized he wasn't trying to hurt me. He was protecting our daughter from the chaos I'd created. The boring man I mocked for only paying bills had methodically removed my access to money, stability, and even the narrative of being a good mother. By the time the divorce papers were hand-delivered, every detail, custody, assets, support, was organized in his favor. I'd called him predictable, but he turned out to be strategic, relentless, and completely done with me, and the price of my betrayal was higher than anything I could afford.